Hello everyone, welcome back to Ganch's Menagerie. I am Ganch. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about character creation from the player's perspective for the new to RPG guide. What this isn't. This is not a how to build the perfect character, this is not how to build the strongest character, and this is not a character that's going to win you every game or every situation. This is more of a here's some things to consider when making a character, and here's some general terms about characters and roles. What do classes mean? What are races? Can someone explain what these stats are to me? And then some more talking points or thinking points as you are going through the whole process of character creation. So if you're still with me after that, let's get into it. When you sit down to make a character, I remember when I did mine for the very first time. It was just me and the rule book, and I was reading the Forgotten Realms, the Drizzt der Erden. I probably butchered that name, but anyway, I was reading the Drizzt series from the local library, and I made in the whatever RPG I was playing at the time, I made a Drizzt character because I was so into that idea. And that's, I think, one of the things that sold me on the beauty of this hobby, which is you can make anything and anyone and be and have a character, and there's so many aspects to it. Now, there are various types of role-playing games out there. I'm not sure which one you personally are playing or your party table is playing, excuse me. So I'm not going to try to cover them all. It's not possible because I haven't played them all, but I am going to talk about some commonalities between them, and one of them is a character's class. If you're playing sci-fi, fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, etc., 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 almost every one of those rule books is going to have a character class section. What that is what a character does for a living, per se, or their proficiencies and where they fall into what I like to call the three main lines of characters in a party: front, mid, and backline. So we're going to go into these more in depth, but do want to highlight that each of them are not playing one of those lines, picking one over the other is not a bad thing. There is no right or wrong answer. It's what you want to play, what the rest of the party and the table agrees to, and what's fun, what helps you tell a good story and have a good time and chuck some dice. So again, we want to go back to that. What this isn't, it's all about having a good time with good people and telling good stories, right? So let's break it actually down into the types of jobs in a party. Your frontliners are the ones that hit things with very large things, or their fists in the case of monks. Um, at level one, they're a little bit less squishy than the others. That's either through armor or better health or various abilities that they have, depending on the system you're using. But your frontliners are there to hold things up and get in your enemy's face, allowing your mid and backliners to do what they do. So, if you're wanting to play a frontliner, usually it's the most quiet person in the room that plays the barbarian that wants to slay everything possible. My buddy Pierce's mom is running the game for his family, and his mom is a fighter, and I'm like, she's going to kill everyone. No, she's not. She's going to. She does. She does. I don't know what class she's playing, but I'm assuming she's in one of the frontline classes. Get in there, do bad things to bad people, or good people, depending on the party, and mess things up and have a good time chucking dice. Those are those. Those are what the frontline roles are more aligned to. So mid roles or midline roles are more specialized in a way. That's where you start your specialization of inflexibility levels. Don't get me wrong, your fighters can have really good talking skills in the game, etc. There's multiple ways you can build a character, right? But primarily, that you're going to want someone from your mid or back line to be the one talking to the local king or magistrate after you burn down that tavern after a drunken brawl, and not your barbarian or your fighter who don't have the understanding of courtly behavior. Your bards, your smooth talking rogues, your clerics, your druids, even your warlocks. These all kind of fit into here. If I am referencing D&D classes, for those that are familiar with this, that's because that's the system I'm most familiar with. But again, similarities across different systems. So these are maybe a little bit less heavily armored, maybe a little bit less get up in your face, especially in the case of the rogue. They're better suited to hitting from the side and the flanks or the shadows and causing extra damage that way. Rogues can be scary dangerous if they can get a sneak attack on you. But they also have more capabilities, and their moments to shine sometimes are not outside of combat. I would personally classify this as the realm where your clerics live, and your healer types, the ones that keep your party going once they've made horrible life choices, and the DM makes them pay for those horrible life choices because they heal them. You want to keep your Band-Aid box alive. You want to keep your Band-Aid box alive. So that leaves us with the backline. Now, what is a backline character? They do things from a distance in combat. These are your wizards, your sorcerers, your rangers, depending on which type of ranger you're playing, or your shooty ranger, I should say, your shooty characters. They're usually the lightest armored. They're usually the not as bulky. They don't look like bodybuilders. They look like they spend most of their time um, in the library reading. Mind you, I know an accountant. I had an accountant in my capstone course in college that was regularly hit the gym, so he was a swole accountant, which is absolutely terrifying to think about paying that man your taxes. But sorry, tangent. Anyway, we're talking about your backliners. Yeah, you don't want to put them in the front of the giant monster and say, "Here, go take this." They're a little bit better with a couple layers of human bodies between them and more cushion between them and the thing that's trying to kill everyone in the party, because they are a little bit softer than everyone else. I would say this is the people that like to play slow grow. This is where they would excel, because while your backliners are a little bit squishy at first level, the capabilities grow with you as you level your character up. Wizards can cast Fireball, and if you can find memes online about I cast Fireball, it's a very small room. I didn't ask how big the room was. I cast Fireball. That kind of situation. Lots of dice are chucked. Lots of party members are singed, and chaos reigns. So, words mouth here. That is where you get to the fun part, or some of the more exuberantly outrageous parts of the hobby is when you're with your backliners, because as long as they're kept alive long enough, they can get some interesting spells or capabilities later on that can just lead to absolute havoc. So that's classes. That's the job your character does. Now let's talk about races. So my buddy Weaver did a really good job explaining this, because he was talking about explaining to his wife about explain character creation to his wife. Races are how magical of a creature you are based in your fantasy world. And again, each table is going to be different. But based off the Core Player's Handbook 2014 edition, you have extremely grounded characters like dwarves. They are not known to be magic users at all, or if they are magic users, they're not high magic users. Or you can have a dwarven druid. I know you can have a dwarven druid. It'd be interesting to have a dwarven druid in a game, but they're not really. They're more down to earth, primarily living underground, more grounded, pun intended. Then you get to up to, start going through the list. Your half orcs, your humans, they're mid grounded. Like they can have magical capabilities, but they aren't insanely magical. Things like of that nature. And then you get to your more magical type creatures, the elves, the graceful elves. You get to the tieflings, the gnomes, where inherently that you're playing a character that magic is imbued in them. So that's where I think I would describe, yeah, that's how I would describe that level of how the progression of the races go from super grounded to magical. Right. Now we get to talk about stats. Statistics are what, or your stats, excuse me, not statistics, but your stats dictate by the dice, depending on who your how your DM and your table to figure out how to do for character creation, dictate your character's core competencies in, at least in Dungeons and Dragons, your 6 main skills. So you have strength, constitution, strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. We're going to break these down. So, strength is how physically strong your character is. In D&D, the baseline human is at 10, and then anything up from that, you're the next level up. So, a human commoner would be a strength 10, not anything special. Powerful warrior might be at 18 or a 20, like they're super strong. Your more grounded characters tend to have higher strength scores, whereas your more magical characters, as we keep going down the line, those are the scores that seem to increase. Strength, dex, and con all refer to your physique and your physical capabilities. Wisdom, intelligence, and charisma refer to your mental and your senses capabilities. So, covered strength, dexterity. Dexterity is how dexterous you are, how likely you are to dodge the bullet that's shot at you or the arrow that's shot at you, how fast you can climb a wall, how smoothly you can pick someone's pocket. Those type of skills are dexterity based. Constitution is how overall robust and healthy you are as a character. If you have a high constitution, that means your hit points are going to be a little bit higher starting out than they would be previously. Hit points are the number of times hit points is your health. Excuse me. So the higher the hit points you have, the more the health you have, the less squishy you are. Again, these are typically more grounded, more important for your frontliners usually than your mid to backliners. So wisdom. Wisdom is how, not how wise your character is, like Methuselah or anything like that, but it's more, your wisdom is how aware of the world you are. Think of it, it can be street smarts, it could be just, nature smarts. A hunter has high wisdom, per se, and, knows that which crack of the twig signals, oh crap, I'm in danger, oh crap, dinner's on the table. That's where wisdom comes into play. That affects certain aspects of your characters, that come into play in the game for reading the room, as it were. Your intelligence, on the other hand, is how book smart your character is. Your wizard might read a extensive amount of books and therefore be very book smart, but have a very low wisdom score because he doesn't know that the small dirty urchin is picking his pocket. Whereas the rogue might be very street smart and have a high wisdom, but not be able to read or write. Would be the comparison between those two. So intelligence is more of a spellcaster heavy trait. It depends on that. Then you have charisma. which I don't have a lot of in my personal life, or my real life. Charisma is how smooth you are as a talker. Um, can you talk the pretty barmaid into giving you the party around drinks? Can you talk yourself out of the the death sentence the judge just sentenced you because you come up with this great legal precedent, or the wizard comes up with this great legal precedent no one's ever heard of, but he can't speak clearly. Your charismatic player comes into play and makes that role for you. When we eventually sit down and look at a sheet once, we'll go through all this a little more. So that covers the stats. We've covered races, races, and the stat block. Let's talk about some things to consider when you are making your character finally, or you're making your character. I would challenge you all to remember that there's one extra character in a party, in every party, no matter what system, game you're playing, anything like that. That's the table as a whole. And when I refer to the table, I don't mean the actual physical structure of the table. I mean the people who are choosing to sit around with you on whatever evening you choose or time you choose and tell the story with you. Make sure your character is meshing with the table, right? You've had the sessions here, we've talked about character creation there. Keep in mind when you're making your character that there are other people here trying to tell a good story too. On that, following on with that point, is RPGs are collaborative storytelling. If you want to be the sole main character of this game, I suggest you write your own book instead. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache, everyone else a lot of heartache, etc. You're never going to make a character that is the best at everything, and that's awesome. That is perfect, because it's through the struggles, like in life, it's through the struggles and the challenges and the things that go wrong that make the best stories after the fact. And maybe you picked a backline character, a midline character, you're not great at combat, but there's going to come that time when the party needs to talk their way out of something, or they need someone to sneak past something, and your character is going to be the one to do it. And that's your time to shine, right? And the right table, the right DM, the right party, it's all going to come together. It's all going to come together and make a great story. The last thing I want to touch on is leave room to grow. Don't have to make the ultimate character at the beginning, right? If you're going to do a backstory for your character, which again, this is all up to you and your table and the DM, where you come from, your strengths, weaknesses, fears, vices, etc., past loves, kind of thing. Leave room for growth. Making a character that has no weaknesses for the DM to exploit, pierce, or that is so story powerful but game weak. It just I personally don't get it. I personally don't get it, because as you tell your story together, there's going to be things that come up, and I would love to know how your character's going to react when they have to choose between their new party and someone they've known from childhood. Or how is your character going to react when they have to take their first human life and they've never done that before? Those kind of things, because if they didn't, someone else innocent was going to pass. Those kind of things are story defining moments that if you're making the most heartless character or the most powerful character, etc., you don't get to tell. That to me is really sad. Because it's the stories that come from the dice and the table that make this a beautiful hobby. But I'm waxing eloquently, waxing eloquently or waxing loquaciously, whichever word you want to use there. I'm just trying to read my handwriting here. What did I write? Well, if you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me ramble and sit here and watch me help me paint and keep me motivated. you all are badasses, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what kind of character you made and what kind of character you want to play or your favorite type of character. Um, if you are finding this series helpful at all or would like to recommend to a friend, please do so. Uh, Also, friendly reminder, the Discord link is down below. Feel free to join us. Because as I said, we're a slowly growing community. We do have some active members in our community, and we are trying to, as always, get more people to hear more stories of going around on the table and just share the love of the hobby with. So you're welcome to come check us out. And as always, I hope you join us for our next video and the guide. And until then, may your dice roll well and your paint flow smoothly. Thanks, y'all. See ya.